Welcome to Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast, the show featuring presenters and artists from the 1111 Tapestry Feminine Collective experience. Now, here's your host. Hi, Jacqueline.
Congratulations, Arlia Hoffman.
Congratulations. Joyous day.
Joyous day.
We have known each other a long time. I think in adulthood, we begin to appreciate how long-lasting friendships can be very precious. Mm. And we've known each other 8 years. 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was like a lightning bolt when we met. I was holding a women's temple practice. And I got an email from that to expect someone named Jackie Robinson. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, really? That's a good joke. Who is this? And is this a woman? I like all sorts of stuff. And when you walked in, it was electric because you brought your energy into the room. Talk about what that experience was like for you.
The experience from the moment that I learned there was this temple practice happening locally. This was a time in my life where it shifted from everything being virtual to now physical, in-person people I could touch and see who were also walking an intentional, conscious journey. And so all of the things happen. I'm arriving for this temple practice. I'm pretty sure it was February 5th, 2016. And I pulled up in the driveway. It was held at a private home. I pulled up in the driveway. I saw the sign on you went up these stairs and there was and a screen door and the sign said, temple practice, come on in. And immediately I was weepy. I hadn't seen you. I didn't know what an Arlia was. I'd never heard the name. Like I knew nothing other than the organization where temple practice originated and was founded and where you trained and I was considering training sent me to you. I come in the door. I sit. I still don't know who or what an Arlia is. There's just women around. I don't know any of them. And then you begin to facilitate. And near the beginning of this particular temple practice, as we're opening the body, you say, okay, now I want you to open your eyes as you're moving your body. And I want you to look into the eyes of the other women here. I can't remember one other woman and the moment of looking in her eyes, but I profoundly still have the cellular memory in my body of you're facilitating, you don't know anything about me, you're just doing the temple mama thing, and you gaze in my eyes, and I'm weepy. Mm. With no words, there's no why, there's no written on paper, this woman, here's what you know about her. No, what the hell is an Arlia? And then you look in my eyes and it felt like I knew you. I didn't know you. I didn't know anything about you. I'd never seen you. I'd never been in temple. Everything was new to me. But that moment of connection is what immediately created, I would say, the spark, the foundation, the opening into this beautiful, I don't know, friendship doesn't really seem right, but it is.
Sistership.
Sistership. Yes, there's a sister something. And for me, sisterhood has been so overdone. It's challenging to find the energetic signature in those words. I have often said, I know who my women are. And in my body, speaking of my women, that does something. And I knew, not here, I didn't know anything that night, but down in my body, I knew this is one of my women.
Mm-hmm. That type of sacred intimacy really sets the tone. It creates the container. It sets the field for women to connect in that way. And we might have recognized each other in a different context, but I don't know that we really would have been sensitive to that deep soul connection that was intimate immediately there. And it's also hopefully not as much now, but a rare thing between women.
It is a rare thing between women. It has been a rare thing between women. And we could talk at length about that and the why. But what senses as true to me is any woman listening is familiar with the history, right? We're familiar with the history. We're maybe familiar with the word patriarchy, which has so much raveled up in it that isn't what we might label it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for another conversation. But in all of what has transpired, rather than there being a foundational call to women to connect intimately and to be present, that's the intimacy. It's the being of ourselves and doing so in the presence of other women. That became flipped into competition for the man, competition for the beauty, competition for the sex, competition for the job, competition from the mother or the father. Like, it's everywhere.
Yes.
And we're watching it in our time now begin to revolutionize, have a revolution, like revolving around the sun, have a full revolution in partnership with the Aquarian age back into a time where we not only must get clear in relationship to our own woman, but it's becoming essential that we come back into community with other women. And there are layers of gold in that, from the physical to the emotional, to the spiritual, to the creative, to the community.
And when you talk about the competitive environment and how we've been trained to do that, I'm sure a lot of women are like, how do you even overcome that competitiveness? And I know I've experienced that in Temple, where women really learn, like, oh, there is a way in which we can learn to trust each other and really prioritize that trust among women and not feel so alone or so it's not even competition, in conflict, in otherness, separateness from other women.
Yeah, I feel that the cultivation of that, again, is multi-level, and at its core is our relationship with woman. Number one, just the feminine, just the feminine essence, being a woman, being this woman, meeting that woman.
And as you say that, I'm reminded that it really starts with being at home in our own bodies and feeling safe here, being able to trust ourselves enough to be able to open up and trust others.
Yes. Yeah. And I guess as you say that, it strikes me that often when I speak about a woman cultivating trust and really trusting herself, the first piece is with herself. But as you're speaking, and because we're speaking in the context of women in community, women communing, there's a next step to that where it's not just about isolating yourself until you know you can trust, but allowing yourself to be in the presence of other women, noticing what your nervous system is doing, because that's not always conscious. It's very embedded now in the cellular biology.
It is, yes.
Of the feminine, of a female. It's embedded in our biology that we have to hunker down and protect ourselves. And this is the time now where, yes, fully acknowledging life has happened. Our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties, our sisters, our cousins, the ones who came before us, and we have experienced something that rocks the internal system and sends the message down. You can't trust anybody. And sometimes the message might say, you can't trust anybody but you. But I find more often when that message is present in the system, it includes you, even if we don't realize it. So the biggest part of you and I having this conversation right now, what we're going to talk about, what is being created, is to unravel that. And there's all kinds of words, but I want to choose intentionally. It is a remembering. It is a reactivation. It is a calling in, and it is new. Like it's all of those at the same time.
Yeah. As you say, our cellular memory is already coded with our history, a history we may not really choose or desire. We're also coded with the sisterhood, with the inherent trust and communion.
Yeah.
With the feminine, and that sense of solidarity and trust, and which doesn't happen automatically. It does have to be cultivated, but it's there to be remembered.
Yes. Yes. And remembered within, I'm going to say, a body of women who intentionally create the time and space to be with other women and to allow. It seems like such a simple word, but the goodness. And by the goodness, the laughter and the tears and the pleasure and the movement, and sometimes even just being quiet and still in the same space and feeling how nourishing that is to just be communing, whether it's silent or spoken or moving as we do in temple. It doesn't matter. There's something so, it's hard for me to find words for how beautiful and rich and profound and life-giving and life-changing it is when women come together.
It is. It's affirming, it's nurturing, and it's supportive. And ultimately, it changes us.
Yes.
I know a lot of feminine leaders who understand this, but for those of us, particularly in spirituality, sure, we've had community, but we've really also had to stand on our own 2 feet, build our own business, rely only on ourselves. And if you get support, it's a coach you have to pay for. Like that thread runs through our community as well. So our conversation, Jacqueline, if you're willing to join me for this, is to help women understand the beauty of that type of communion, the ways that it can be nurtured, and the ways that you, as part of Tapestry, are designing community and events that will really help support and magnify each woman's own power in herself and in community through sisterhood.
Yes. And I feel like the feminine leaders who resonate with what we're speaking about, these are women who, in their own space as a woman, have been doing the work, have been doing the healing, have been building their business, have been mothering their families, have been deepening into their practice. Like, these are women who are doing it. And so many are doing it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean alone, nobody's around. There might be people around. I'm talking about in the internal, deep space where a woman feels connected and fulfilled and seen, and her wisdom flows, and her creativity is amplified just by being in the presence of other women. Because one of our magics, just by how we're designed, is that we multiply and we give birth and we make life. And so you can't help but feel that when you choose intentionally, when you can hold yourself and at the same time be open and allow yourself to be held also. Your interior changes.
Mm-hmm.
Your feminine power. There's a buzzword that makes the hackles stand up because it means so many things, but our innate feminine power turns on because it's in its natural environment. Going all the way back to the beginning, women gathered, whether they were weaving baskets, whether they were engaged in sacred practice, whether they were in the community caring for the children, whether they were making meals for when the men returned, whether they were generations of one family tending to the home. We have lived most of our existence on this planet in communion with other women. And in that revolution we've talked about, we're circling right back to an absolute necessity. We're not just talking, yes, there's luxury. Yes, there's growth and maturing and seasoning and ripening. And then there's a whole other level of being with women who are your elders, being with women who are the younger ones, being with women who have navigated what you have not. And they're standing and they're whole and they're thriving.
Yes.
And they'll stand beside you and can assure you, I'm right here and everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for you.
Yeah.
And I'll be with you.
To your point, it's not only valuable, it's necessary. It really is necessary for us individually, for us communally, for us globally.
Yes.
So we will continue talking about some of the elements that are critical in building sisterhood and the ways that women can dive into that and discover their own strength, to feel the strength of the women with them, and to really, we're going to have to find a new word for empower themselves, to really amp up their own light, to really inhabit their full light.
Yes. Yes. And literally, we are being. My mind said called, and I thought, no, that's not quite right. And I looked down, and on my keyboard says command. Like, it
compelled.
feel like it's, and I don't mean like it's a command, you must do it right now, but it's an internal. Compel is a beautiful way to define it. We are being compelled to be in the presence of other women and to do so in the ways that are true to ourselves. And I think we're going to see more and more of this, where it's not just the goddess gathering to come together and have fun and do the fun things and feel good, but that it is almost like a mission. That's not the right word. Like I can't quite, an imperative. And I feel that there's a place in our nervous system that is unfamiliar to many women of our generation.
Yeah.
That is calmed and eased and lit in a different way when we choose to place ourselves within an intentionally held space just for women. It's a game changer.
It is. Thank you, Jacqueline. We're going to be back talking more in depth about what it means to be in community with other women, the beauty of sisterhood, some of the elements that make that up, and ways that you can cultivate it for yourself. So stay tuned. We'll be back soon. Thank you for joining us on Tapestry Feminine Collective Podcast. To learn more, visit tapestryfemininecollective.com.